guys, this is Tina. Welcome back to my channel. So unfortunately I didn't actually manage to stitch all of my pieces because my thread that I was using ran out, so I need to nip out and buy some more thread, because other than that I only had kind of black and bright blue and red and other odd colours that clearly wouldn't have obviously gone with the kit. So I haven't actually done my ruffles or anything like that just yet. But I thought, you know, that needn't stop us from coming on and doing a couple more pieces. So obviously this is all of my kit pieces that I've got here. So I'll just move them off to the side so that they're not just cluttering up the desk, and I'll also move the journal off to the side. So the first thing that I thought we could do today is create a little matchbox book, but this time I thought we'll do a sideways, oops, all my stuff slipped down now, a side opening one, if that makes sense. So it would open kind of that way on the page. So all I'm going to do is kind of get roughly the height that I would like. So I think probably if I cut it, this paper has got this delicate sort of pattern up the just on the edge. If I cut it kind of roughly just near the top of that pattern, and then I'm aware that obviously these physical kits, you know, you can't just go and print more stuff, so I want to be frugal and get the most out of my kit. So I'm just going to bend that over, or fold that over here, and that will be my little tuck place where my, you know, matchbox book folds into. And that way I can then just roughly decide what length my piece needs to be. Now actually, as it happens, I think I can probably leave that the entire length of the sheet. So I'm just going to cut down the entire length. Okay. So I'll pop that out of the way, and then that would just fold in like that. Now I just want to bring the journal back in for 2 moments while I just check that that's actually going to fit on the page, because the last thing that we want to do is make it where actually it's too wide to fit on the page. So can you see that? It's actually a little bit too wide for the A4 page. So I'm going to just bring it in a little bit more, like that. Okay. And don't worry too much where we've got the crease here now, because obviously, you know, once this is all glued down and assembled, that, you know, that's going to be fine. So what I want to do now is just trim this off where it's going to tuck in to the flap. So I'm just going to trim it off here, and I'm not going to get rid of that you know, this little scrap, because this is really pretty. So I might be able to just kind of tear that and pop it onto one of the blank sort of pages or something. So if I just check that out there, okay, so then that fits nicely on the page, and you know, the width of it is not going to be a problem now. So got that piece, and then I like to just glue these here. So if I just trim this off slightly more to make it neater, because obviously I didn't do that very straight, so I just trim that like that. And then I find a good way to glue it is if you hold your folded piece down, you can then glue in the space that's remaining. Does that make sense? So your blank space here, and that way you know that you've got your fold glued down right up as close as it can possibly be to where your fold is going to tuck in. Hopefully that made sense. I'm not sure whether it did to my ears, to be honest, but hopefully it did to you guys. So I'm just going to trim this down now here at the back, because as you can see it's not looking too straight. Hopefully that's tidied that up a little bit. And then we'll just open it out and make sure that it looks okay once it's opened out. So that looks fine. Okay, now obviously here I have folded that and you know, I want to just cover that up a little bit now. So I might bring this little piece of the tape in, because I know we sort of played around with that a little bit last time. Got this little framey thing here, which actually I think I've got one in green as well, in the actual sort of pre-cut, fussy cut pieces. So let's go for the green one, because obviously that then picks up this green that's on here. And then I'm just wondering whether down the side we cut that strip of lace. I could just run the lace piece down the edge there. I'm really wanting to use this tape, and I'm just not feeling it there. I wonder if this is a little bit too small to go on there actually. So let me just pull in again, this kind of main sheet of framed type pieces, and just see what I've got there that would make a bit more of an impact than this sort of tiny piece here. So I'll just cut that one out like that. Oh, come on. Oh, it's a lovely day out there today. Again, it's freezing, but really lovely and sunny and bright. So yeah, really, really nice. Okay, so that looks quite nice like that. And then obviously we could have this lace piece just running down the side, which I quite like. So I'm going to glue this on. I mean, we could have actually backed that onto some net or something like that, but I'm keen to try and just use things really that you've got in the kit. So I didn't obviously want to kind of pull something out that you didn't then have included with the kit. So just do that, and then I'm just going to tuck that in there. Okay, that looks nice. And then we'll just have our piece of lace going down the edge. But before I pop the lace on, I'm just going to ink this up, because you know, I'm not planning on inking the lace or you know, coffee dyeing the lace or anything. I'm going to try and have the lace white as a really lovely sort of bright, brilliant contrast. I mean, I think the coffee dyed would look lovely too. The white is maybe a bit of a bold choice, and I will maybe regret it, but in my mind, when I picture the journal, I just am picturing the, oops, got my new glue that's finally arrived. So I'll just quickly, and I'm going to use that tip that everyone kindly told me about, just piercing the top of this rather than peeling it off. I can't remember what I was saying actually, but yeah, in my mind anyway, I picture this just with that beautiful, brilliant white lace, just, oh, looking really striking and sort of gorgeous against the actual, you know, the rest of the journal. I might live to regret that, but definitely in my mind, that's how I'm picturing it. And again, you know, if you're following along with this, you know, and you've bought the kit, please, please don't feel that you have to do what I'm doing, because if that's not something that you think would look nice, then by all means, you know, coffee dye your lace. I just, for some reason, it's just pulling me to do it this way. Now, we've got an abundance of butterflies included with the kit, and we've also obviously got a lot of flowers, so we can afford to, you know, decorate this up and do something more on this. So I think we'll have a little flower like that. Oops, actually I'm going to just ink that up before I glue it down. struggling to stand anything up. Every time I touch anything, it's just dropping off. Okay, so really pretty. Now, obviously, you know, this is quite plain because when I designed these papers, you know, I wasn't sure whether I was actually including this paper being bound into the book, if that makes sense, you know, whether I was going to be using it as a bound in page. So if that's too plain for your liking, you know, you could stamp over this and things like that. So that's another sort of idea there that you could actually do, which I think would look really, really pretty. I'll just take a bit of my bling. I might just have that way on, I think. Okay, like that. Oh, stuck on me now, not on the piece. Come on, off my finger. Okay, oh. Okay, right. I'm just going to check that I'm filming and I'm in frame and all that, because I've just got this horrible feeling suddenly. You know, you just get those moments of panic and you think, oops, not sure I'm filming, but actually I was. So we've got that. I mean, we could have some doily, which that's why I didn't bind my large rectangular doily this time, because I did bind it in the last beginner's kit that I did. And actually then, I'm not saying I regretted it, but you know, there were times when I thought, oh, it's a shame I've kind of glued that in, because it would have come in quite handy for the decorating of some of the pieces. So that's why I haven't bound it into my book this time, because I just thought we might prefer it, you know, for decorating up some of our pieces there. So we could just have a little bit of doily kind of just there. Again, I'm just going to use that 3-in-1 because my tacky glue doesn't seem to behave very well with the doilies. It's fine until they're coffee dyed. So that's another little note actually, is if you've bought the physical kits, obviously you have bought them with the coffee dyed doilies, so it might be worth checking the glue that you're using, whether it's likely to mark your pieces at all. So that's that one, and yeah, looks really pretty. So so I'm just going to pop that to one side, and what I'm going to do is just keep a little pile beside me as we make pieces, and then every now and then I will just pull the journal back and we'll see how many more pieces that we've got left to make, I think. Okay, so for our next piece that we're going to make, I think what I'm going to do is take one of the documents. So, you know, this is a genuine vintage document. I have just coffee dyed this. And everybody will have different documents, because obviously it was documents, so I didn't have more than one of each sheet. It was just a big, you know, bound together, like set of deeds or something like that, or property documents. And yeah, so you will all have different pieces, to be honest, but hopefully you'll have something that you feel might work if you wanted to do something similar to this. So what I thought we could do is, these are similar to my little fold out, you know, those pockets that we've done that are kind of like that. But what I thought I would do, if I fold this in here, and I have done these a couple of times, but I don't think I've actually made them, you know, with you guys. And then what I'm wanting to do is have this folded here, and then if I was to fold it, say here, and then have another pocket, but in one of the contrasting kind of background pages in there, if that makes sense. So I'm going to fold that down here in the first instance. So that's my first pocket. Then I'm going to fold this one over here. That's my second pocket. And then I'm going to just take a piece of the background page. Now, it doesn't really matter which piece I take. So, yeah, I'm going to, I think, use this. Just looking. Yeah, I'm going to use this, and all I'm going to do is cut it down so that I can make a pocket from it. So I'm just going to cut it kind of along here, and hopefully this will be more evident once I've cut it, and you'll see more what I'm talking about. Okay, and that will slot in there like that. So you've then got like a pocket here and a pocket here, and obviously once you've glued it on the page you could also have a pocket there, if that makes sense. So all I'm going to do is glue this down. Yeah, I'm going to glue it down. Now I have to bear in mind, you see this here that I've got on my desk is an A4 sheet. Again, that's our speak for your legal size in America. Your legal size is slightly different to ours. I think it's like half an inch or a quarter of an inch difference on maybe each side. So it's our equivalent of your page. So I obviously don't want it longer than the page, if you see what I mean. So I'm going to trim that down in a minute. And then I'm just going to obviously glue this page down. And obviously I don't need to be too worried about the edges because this bit is going to be inside, you know, tucked inside the pockets like that. So just spread that out, get my little card here and spread that all out like that. Okay. Okie dokie. And then we'll take our piece that we just cut. Now obviously I cut one of the edges and then one was the edge, if that makes sense, off the paper. So obviously I want to make sure that I've got my neat edge on the outside, but aside from that, you know, anything is fine. Now it's up to you here whether you want this the complete length of your page or whether you wanted to snip it down and make it sort of smaller, or, you know, I personally quite like it being, you know, the entire length of the A4 page. I think that's really quite nice, and added bonus is you have a massive pocket then to use, which I think is really lovely. But of course, you know, you must do yours kind of how you would like. So just going to glue that down here like that, and that then gives me the guide for where I need to cut my length for my, you know, this entire pocket, if that makes sense. So again, I'm just going to take my dried out wipe and I will just glue that down everywhere. Okay, and then oops, just check that I've glued my edges down nicely like that, and then I just want to glue my edges down here. And again, just double check that I've kind of glued along the edges there. There we go. And just spread that out with the spreader. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is obviously trim that down to the size of that A4 sheet. I might go in slightly, so it will literally be like a couple of millimeters shorter than the A4 page. And I like to do that because obviously my glue, you know, I went as close as I could to the edges, but I mean, obviously my glue's still not right to the edge, if that makes sense, you know. So by cutting in just a millimeter or so, it just ensures that the glue then is, you know, right up to the edge. So again, just do exactly the same on this piece, or sorry, not this piece, this end. And there you can see my piece now. If you can see kind of against that page, it's just literally just, you know, a smidgen shorter. I'm just going to take that off slightly more. Okay, there we go. So you've got these really roomy pockets, which I just think are really fun and really handy. So again, if I just now, let me just move my papers that obviously are still here from the last piece, move them to one side. Obviously I've got that little piece of doily that we didn't end up using on the last one. I mean, waste not, want not. We'll use that teeny weeny piece. And then let's have a look and see what we've got here. So obviously included in the kit, you've got ladies and things like that, and you've got the flowers and the birds and what have you. So I might just use one of the ladies, maybe a butterfly or something like that, and then I might just pull in a little bit of book page, or I was just thinking we've got the remainder of that wallpaper, so let me just see how that would look behind her. I'm just wondering whether we could kind of you know, tear a little bit of this and just have a little bit of that there. Let me just tear around that everywhere so that it's not got those square edges, which don't look quite so good. Hold on. How about if we have it like this way? That's a bit better, isn't it? Okay, so I'm going to, I think, have it like that. So if I just commit and glue this bit of wallpaper down. There we go. And then I'm just going to ink that wallpaper up so that it's not so white, like that. And then I'm going to pop the lady on there. Whoops, and the doily. So let's just ink her up a bit. Like that. And actually I'm just going to ink up around the entire piece now. I mean, obviously those documents have been coffee dyed, so they are, you know, quite grungy anyway, but I just wanted to make sure that everything looked tied in. Oops. Like that. Now just wondered whether we want any more of the wallpaper, like, do we want a bit sort of here or anything? Just tear that down. Put that maybe there. Oh, I don't like it up there because it's kind of the same then. Oops. That's quite nice. What I'm thinking, weirdly, is actually we might not put this on here. We might, oops, put this onto the page coming out behind the pocket. Now, I've said that. The chances of me remembering that are incredibly slim. So I might have to just pop it on the pocket. Or, at the very least, I might have to leave it tucked in there so that I don't forget what I kind of had planned. Either of those things. So let's just ink up the butterfly. And then got that little bit of lace, which I wonder if we need a bit of book page on there as well. Let me just pull in the book page. See, this is the weird thing, isn't it, with junk journals, to be honest. Everything always looks better with more, you know, or most things. I have, on the very rare occasion, kind of then had to backtrack and say, oh no, actually it looked better without. But I mean, on the whole, I think more is always better. And, you know, that's weird, isn't it? I'm not quite sure why. But definitely, it seems something with junk journals that more is definitely the thing. Now, just before I glue that down, just wondered whether we needed one of those little frame type labelly bits. Where's that doily gone? Okay. Could have that like that. So if that was on the page and we had like the, oh, that's quite nice, isn't it? Quite like that. And then, oops, do we want this little label anywhere? I don't think we really need it, to be honest. I might pull in that ivory lace that we've got as well. And just, let me just check which is the right way and the wrong way. I know I always say it, but I'm not even sure whether there is really a right way and a wrong way, to be honest. But if there is, we probably should try and get it the right way, shouldn't we? So I'm just going to trim that down there. Pop this on here, I think. So I'm going to glue the doily piece down. Just in there. Press that down with my dry wipe. I'm going to glue the lady down before we can change our mind about her. Okay. Okie dokie. Well, now my wipes got caught on her and she's now got fluffy bits from the wipe. Okay. Right, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to tuck this in here so as to keep it with that and remember what I thought I would do. I probably will still forget, to be honest, but fingers crossed I've at least got half a chance if I do that. Let's cut a bit of that green bling. Just, you know, pop that there, I think. So again, I'm just going to cut this like header bit off of this lace. Sometimes I don't mind it and sometimes I think it looks a little bit heavy for the piece. So I just think this is one of those occasions where it just was looking a little bit heavy, I think. So I'm just going to glue that down like that. Okay. And just mop that up a bit with my wipe that's now literally you know, threading all over me with its fluffy type bits. Now, do we want that side or this side? I think we'll have it this side because I've got quite a bit of glue here, so that will just cover up the glue. There we go. Oops, just pop that down. Okay, that looks really pretty. To be honest, I don't even know if it needs the butterfly actually. So I'm going to leave the butterfly off, and we might add the butterfly when it comes to sticking it in the journal. We might not, so we'll just see. And again, I'm just going to cut down a couple of the journaling cards just to show you sort of how that would be with them popped in. Okay. Okay, and just cut out another one. So we'll go for a bigger one, so I think we'll go for this one. And you know, all of these bits are interchangeable, so just because I'm kind of picking these bits now doesn't mean that these are the bits that I'm going to definitely leave in there. You know, might change my mind completely and go with something else, but we'll just give these a try for the moment. So there we go. Okay, so again, I'm just going to ink these up. You know, I mean, as I say, this really not showing particularly on the pattern side because they are, you know, these rich, beautiful colours, but definitely on the back. I just want them inked up a little bit on the back. So that's that one, and then this one. Just ink around there, and then just ink the back of there. Oops. Okie dokie. There we go. So that's another piece done. Now let me check the time and the situation with the camera. Okay. Lost track because I had to stop it earlier. So I don't know what I'm actually up to be honest, but hopefully we've got plenty of time. Okay, so the next piece that we could do, let me just have a look at the papers and things. So what I might do is take this one and we could just make a little pocket with this. So I think if I cut, just trying to work out which bit I cut just now. I must have cut down there. Okay, so if we cut here, and actually we'll cut right the way down or up, depending on your perspective, I suppose. And then what I'm going to do is just cut that across here. Oh my gosh, did you see that? Look at that cutting. What is going on today? That is just awful, isn't it? Right, so we're going to make a little pocket here. So again, we're just going to get some of the book page, but actually I'm not going to use the book page, I think I'm going to use the sheet music. So I'm going to get one of these thinner pieces of the sheet music. And what I'm going to do is just cut it down. So I'm going to cut it, I think, about here. Like that. To be my pocket here. And what I'm going to do is just literally back that onto just some plain paper. So the reason I'm doing that is just so your kit goes a bit further. Obviously, if you use, you know, other papers to back your pieces on, it's just going to extend the life of your, expand the amount that you've got there. So let me just find some scraps of paper. Okay. Well, I can't find any scraps per se really, but let me just grab in another kind of A4 sheet. So I'm just going to cut this down. Okay. So all I want to do is obviously, you know, make this go a little further. And for me, this, you know, this is a little bit flimsy to use on its own. So I'm just going to glue it onto the just regular copy paper. But I mean, obviously you could use, you know, old book page, you could use like old envelopes or something. Anything that you've got at all. The reason I'm not just folding it over is just because I want to, you know, make the kit go as far as it can go. You know, make the most of the kit rather than sort of being wasteful. Okay. Oh my gosh. I'm just literally flinging things around now. So we're going to cut down the edges like that. And again, you know, I quite like going in slightly because then hopefully I just get onto the line of the glue a little bit better. There we go. And then I'm going to take my piece. Now, obviously I've still got that hideously crooked bottom, but that's okay because that's going to be covered up by my pocket. So I'm just going to cut very slightly into the top for exactly the same reason as I've cut in around the edges, just so we kind of get into that glue line a little bit better. Okay, so hopefully then we haven't really got this kind of gap thing hanging or going on here. Does that make sense? Hopefully that makes sense. So I'm just going to then pop my sheet music here. Now I like these things, I forget the name of those, but I really like those. So I'm going to try and keep them visible as much as I can by just folding down like that. And then here I'm going to trim that down. Not that you really need to, because it's not going to be particularly visible. So that's going to be like that, and then it's up to you really. I mean, sometimes I fold the bottom up and make it sort of a bigger pocket, and sometimes I just glue it on the bottom. Completely up to you. I think either work fine, you know, depending on sort of how big I guess you want your pocket. So I'm just going to cut this down here, obviously, and I might even keep that because we could make a little baby tag out of that. So pop that on the pile. No doubt I'll have lost it and probably won't ever be able to use it anyway, but you'll see. So all I'm going to do now is obviously glue this down, and I will just glue it just across here. So pop your glue on. Like that. And get it sort of into place before I glue my sides down. Now, again, you know, I vary this when I make these. Sometimes I glue the sides on first, sometimes I glue the bottom down first. There's no right or wrong really, just, you know, do the method that you find easiest, and it might be some days you find one method works for you and you might find another method works better on another day. So, you know, really no right or wrong here. And then I'm just going to glue my sides in. I think we did even make some very similar to this in the mass making workshops. So, you know, they're definitely nothing new, nothing exciting. There we go. Okay, and then it's up to you really if you need to trim your bottom down. My bottom actually looks quite straight there because I've obviously covered up the crooked top of the pocket, so it now is looking, you know, pretty good, I think. So I might just round the corners with my corner rounder. Oops, I made a hideous job of that. Okay, I don't always round all of the corners, but I might do today. Again, you know, just varies kind of on your mood, I think. So that's that, and then we can just decorate this one up. I mean, again, I've got just that scrap of wallpaper there left from our last piece, so we could, you know, use that somewhere. And then let's just see what else we've got here. So we've got those lovely clocks, which we haven't used yet. So we could have a clock. I've got that piece that I just keep on pulling back in. So we could have that there. What do you guys think to that? And then we could have obviously a bit of lace across there or something. So let's just ink these bits up I mean, I find sometimes it's amazing the difference that the ink makes, because it pulls everything together. So whereas before, maybe, you know, like that wallpaper didn't necessarily go, once you ink it up, I think it's quite surprising how then it can look like it blends in so much more. So it's definitely worth inking things up, you know, before gluing down, really, if kind of you're wondering whether to use things, because it might just persuade you one way or another. So that's my clock. Now, are we going to manage to use this? Let's try and ink this up. I thought this tape would be really fun with this kit, and I mean, I've talked about this before. I don't generally use washi tape particularly. It's not, you know, just not really something I use, and intrigued as to still whether I will actually get round to using it here, but so we could have it like that, I guess. Oh, just not loving that tape really at the moment, so who knows whether we're going to actually use that. But I do quite like the look of that, I think. So we'll just take our flower. So I'm just going to glue the wallpaper down, and I'm just going to tear it down here because, again, it's got that horrible, you know, very neat. I mean, that's the irony, isn't it? The neat edge is the one that I'm calling horrible, but to me, I don't really like that neat edge, so we'll just get rid of that. And then we have permission to be no longer neat. So I'm going to move that down a little bit. Okay. And then we'll just pop this on here. And we'll just have a bit of lace going across there. So let's just pop the clock down. Oh, look at what I've done now on the face of the clock. Obviously, this is another one of those clumsy days. Oh, don't know why, but just seem to have those, don't you, sometimes, which is very irritating. Okay. So we've got that like that. Now, just wondering, actually, forgotten about my doily, so I'm going to pull the doily back in for a minute. Oh no, look what I've done. Wasting the doily there. Oh no. Oh no, not liking that. Now you see, really what I should have done was obviously thought of the doily first. Oh well, never mind. It's fine. We don't have to have doily on every single piece that we make. That's fine to not have any. And we've got those words, haven't we? So we could pull the words in. Now I've got some butterflies somewhere with green on. We'll just ink up the butterfly. Did I already ink the flower? Losing my mind. I can't remember what I've inked and what I haven't now. Oh well. It's either double inked or I hadn't inked it in the first place. Who knows which. Right, going to glue the lace down. So we're committing to the lace. Okay. Pop that down like that. And just trim that at the edge. Like that. Just not sure which bits to put at the top of this. So again, I might just leave this as it is for the moment, and then we'll sort of finish that off once it gets stuck into the journal. Because sometimes I just think you can try too hard and then actually make the wrong decision, you know. I know it's not like life or death or anything like that, but there's nothing more annoying than popping something down and wishing that you hadn't. I mean, obviously, if you've bought the Digi version of the kit, it's all fine, because you can just print out extra things. You know, if you've used the wrong thing and think, oh, I wish I hadn't stuck that there, you could just print off some more. I mean, I'm just conscious of, obviously, those who've bought the physical kit, making sure I use things, you know, in the right places. For me, in the right places. They might not be in the right places for you guys. You might not like where they've gone, but for me, I kind of, what I sort of deemed to be the right place at that moment. So just going to pop that bling on. Doesn't bling just make such a big difference to everything? It just looks so pretty, doesn't it? Come on, glue. Okay. Okay. Oops. Okay. Right. So again, I'm going to obviously, you know, leave that, because once they go in the journal, they may be decorated further, if you see what I mean, from either what's around the page or, you know, ruffles and bows and things like that. So I don't want to kind of, you know, overdo the pieces before they're actually in place, I think. So that's that piece. So we've got through a couple of pieces so far today, or 3 pieces I think we've done. So that's probably it. As I say, I don't know where I am time-wise because I had to stop the camera earlier. But hopefully I'm kind of within our sort of time frame. And yeah, I hope that you'll all join me for another episode next time. And thanks very much for tuning in. Thanks then. Bye.